A duel would convey no possible benefits to the ladies it would be undertaken for. So pistols at dawn it is. Dueling in Austen's novels. Hello fellow Janeites, I challenge you to a duel. Dueling was technically illegal in Regency England, but they certainly still happened and had a remarkable number of rules associated with them. Today I'm going to be giving a brief overview of the rules and norms of dueling, and then look at the implications of duels in Austen's novels. Duels happened to defend honor. Either the honor of the person issuing the challenge, or someone under their purview who is unable to act for themselves. So women. I suppose elderly father or young son could also fit that criteria, but for the most part, duels were undertaken on the behalf of self or women. Once, in response to an offense of some kind, the challenge had been issued, the person being challenged got to pick the weapon, be it pistols or swords. Then the person issuing the challenge got to pick the location. So one gets the advantage of weapon of choice and the other gets the boon of picking the turf. At this point, both duelists pick seconds. The second's job is to play intermediary between the duelists, both to work out scheduling and to see if a non-violent solution can be found. The seconds would also accompany their respective duelists on the day of the duel to help reduce the chances of foul play. Also present at the duel would be a medical professional of some kind, just in case. Pistol duels were 10 paces, turn, and shoot. It was considered bad form to stop to aim. It was also considered bad form to blatantly try to miss. If you kind of aim a little off, that's okay, but if you're shooting in the other direction, it's kind of insulting. Sword duels went to first blood. So they just kept going until somebody gets a cut, and then the duel's done. Back to Austen. There are two main novels where dueling comes up in Austen. Sense and Sensibility and Pride and Prejudice. In the following two sections, there will be spoilers for those two novels, so if you have not had the pleasure of reading them yet, you have been forewarned. In Sense and Sensibility, an off-screen duel happens between Colonel Brandon and Mr. Willoughby. The reason or offense behind the duel is Mr. Willoughby's seduction and subsequent abandonment of Colonel Brandon's ward, Eliza, who is both morally and legally under Colonel Brandon's protection. So pistols at dawn it is. We actually know that it was a pistol duel from a detail that Colonel Brandon tells Eleanor. We met by appointment, he to defend, I to punish his conduct. We returned unwounded, and the meeting therefore never got abroad. As I mentioned previously, sword duels went to first blood. Since both Colonel Brandon and Mr. Willoughby arrived back from the duel unwounded, we can conclude that it was a pistol duel. A wise choice on the part of Willoughby, as Colonel Brandon, being a military man, would have had a higher chance of besting him at the more skill-based sword duel. This is a liberty that one of the adaptations takes with the novel, in that they have a very dramatic on-screen sword duel between Colonel Brandon and Willoughby. Makes for good cinema, but isn't quite what's in the novel. This retelling of events to Elinor Dashwood also gives us a little glimpse at what Austen's views of dueling likely were. After being told about the duel, Elinor sighed over the fancied necessity of this. But to a man and a soldier, she presumed not to censure it. So Elinor Dashwood does not approve. The lovely ladies at the Thing About Austen podcast, which I'll link down below and maybe up here if I can figure out how to do that, further explain why the duel could be deemed unnecessary. It conveys no possible benefit to the one who it is presumably undertaken for, Eliza, Colonel Brandon's ward. The way things turn out, Willoughby marries someone else, and Eliza is banished to the country for her confinement. If Mr. Willoughby died, Eliza would still receive no benefit from that. And if Colonel Brandon died, Eliza would lose the protection of her guardian, and further, Willoughby would still not be stepping up to plate as the child's father. However you cut it, Eliza receives no benefit from the duel taking place, and so the only purpose it serves is satisfying male pride. Turning now to Austen's second novel, Pride and Prejudice. No duel takes place, but it is discussed. In the aftermath of Lydia Bennet running away with Wickham, one of Mrs. Bennet's numerous fears and complaints is that Mr. Bennet will challenge Wickham to a duel and be killed. Well, incorrect about Mr. Bennet wanting to duel Wickham, she's not wrong about how such a duel would likely have played out and the potential consequences of it. Mr. Wickham, being in all probability younger, fitter, and more professionally trained, would most likely, on paper, have been the victor of any duel between them. If Mr. Bennet were to die in this hypothetical duel, that would leave the estate to Mr. Collins. Given that Mr. Collins wrote, and I quote, "The death of your daughter would have been a blessing in comparison of this." So it's pretty safe to say that Mr. Collins would not have been exactly charitable to the remaining Bennets. This would leave the Bennet ladies without any respectability, thanks to Lydia, without a home, with next to no income, and entirely dependent upon their relations. Although the men in Pride and Prejudice do not choose to pursue a duel, it's a situation where they easily could have decided that it was necessary to settle it Bridgerton style. And once again, another situation where a duel would convey no possible benefits to the ladies it would be undertaken for. Although there are no on-scene duels in Austen novels, through the ways that her characters discuss and interact with dueling, we get a view of what Austen's view of dueling most likely was. That it was a somewhat pointless practice that generally left the ladies worse or at least no better off than they were before, and thus it only served the male ego and sense of honor. I hope you have derived some enjoyment from this discussion of the ironically rule-filled, illegal activity of dueling. Until next time, run mad as often as you choose, but do not